Hello and welcome to Search Off the Record, a podcast coming to you from the Google Search team, where we talk all about search and maybe have some fun along the way. Who knows? My name is John. I'm a search advocate here at Google in Switzerland, and I'm joined today by everyone. Everyone like who joins this podcast regularly, meaning Lizzi, Gary, and Martin.
Woohoo!
Say hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
What?
Okay, two of us clearly cannot follow directions.
Name names.
Well, me for one, and then the person who stayed silent, I guess.
Silent?
Okay.
This is going well.
This is why we have these episodes with all four of us. It's a magical experience.
It's a magical experience. And today we're here to look back at 2024 and think about all of the fun stuff or interesting things that we ran across. One of the things I noticed in preparing this is we went to lots of different places to do events or to talk at events, including countries we haven't been before, like Turkey or I think Malaysia. Not 100% sure, but it's like, Martin, you were recently in Turkey.
Yes.
How did that go?
So I learned that Turkey changed its name to Türkiye. It was really, really nice to be there because I think the idea with the Search Central Live event series was primarily aimed at underserved regions. And I think Turkey is one of them where we haven't been doing much beforehand. And we worked with the local news team. And it was really, really nice to see a diverse audience in terms of different sizes of companies where there are different experience levels. And what I noticed is that a lot of people told me they're not particularly happy with the search results. And initially at the conversation, as it began at the event, they primarily said, like, Google isn't giving us good results. And then I said, why is that? And then eventually we worked out as a group, as a whole, that there are a lot of problems with the way that content is created in Turkish language websites. And I think we can do a better job at helping people identify the problems they are facing and figuring it out. So we can do a lot of education there that will help people make better websites and thus will help people have better websites available to them. And I think seeing that across the industry in Turkey was really, really nice. And what stood out to me was that a lot of people that described themselves as very experienced actually had a bunch of questions that were kind of like, there were certain common themes. One was that they struggled with people copying their work. And oftentimes it turned out that these were legal problems in the end that we can't really do much about, and they need to use the existing mechanisms in their legal system to work against that. And a bunch of it was technical, so there were questions about robots.txt, about no index tags, these kind of things. And it's really, really good to see that they're eager and keen on improving their websites and their content for their users, and I think we can do a lot to help them on the way, which I think is great.
Cool.
The thing you mentioned about experience, I came to realize the past few years that that's a very subjective thing.
Yeah.
Like when you are asking people, like, what's your experience? And they are like, oh, I'm a guru. And then, or I'm like on the opposite end of the spectrum, like I'm a complete newbie. And then you start talking to them and the newbie is like, knows way more about like HTTP, for example, than I do, and crawling and indexing and whatever, like how it's perceived externally. And then you talk to the guru, and the guru is like, the questions themselves don't make sense. Like, like you can't interpret the question that they are asking. So
or it's very, very basic. Like that happened. And I mean, we try to gauge experience by asking them, how many years have you been doing this kind of job, and how many years have you been in this industry, and how many impressions do you manage a month roughly? And these are proxy metrics. And as you say, it's super subjective.
Yeah.
What would be your like criteria, I guess, for assessing that they're basic or more of a beginner?
So if it's very fundamental questions that are being answered kind of in the quick start guide and the like SEO beginners guide that we have in the fundamental documentation, basically, like how can I choose which of the URLs pointing to a specific piece of content is chosen and these kind of things, I would consider that like the 101 kind of things. And then there's like super technical stuff like, hey, we have this web worker in the background that is misbehaving. What's going on? Then that's something that not many people experience, luckily. And that's something that is very, very specific and very unlikely for you to become a blocker unless you have been doing a lot of the work beforehand and have gone into a bit of a deeper end of the pool, so to speak.
But I guess it also depends a lot on the types of specialization.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's like someone could be like super focused on web workers,
sure,
and trying to get them indexed, and at the same time, it's like, how do I block a page from being indexed?
Yeah, and that's probably why it is so subjective, and it's super interesting to see how they're like, yeah, we got everything nailed down. We are running a tight ship here, and then you see like some of the stuff that is discussed at large in all of the beginner documentation is being missed. And that left me with a question: is it that they're not aware that this documentation exists? Is it that they had a hard time fielding the amount of information we put out there? Is it that they don't know? And then there's also the thing, none of us is a native Turkish speaker. We do have professional translations that we invest a lot of effort and time in. But in the end, I know from German that I am a native speaker of. Our German translations are damn good, but I don't know for all the other languages. I'm assuming they're damn good, but I'm not sure we're getting so much feedback on them. I'm wondering why. Is it that we cover everything and everyone knows everything and then they just forget? Or I don't know. I honestly don't know. I would be interested in hearing back from the community, especially from Turkey, what they think on that.
Did you get a sense, just in like conversation with them, if they knew about the documentation, or if there was like sort of a feeling or a vibe about like that the translation is bad or something like that?
That's exactly what I don't know, because we were so busy during the event fielding all the conversations. Like, everyone wanted to talk to us, and that's great. That's fantastic. That's why we're doing it. But it doesn't really give you the space to reflect on things on the spot. So I reflected basically like on my flight back home. I was like, I wonder, dang, I should have asked these questions. But, just means we have to go back and ask them again.
So I guess it's a good thing we have a YouTube series called SEO Made Easy.
Probably, yeah. Episode 16 and onwards are publishing, so enjoy.
Cool. And Gary, you've been running meetups when you travel, kind of like smaller meetings with a smaller set of people. Do you find that to give you different kind of information compared to normal conferences?
I don't know. I do those meetups because I want to hear what's on people's minds. Like, I don't really go to normal conferences anymore for various reasons. And one of the most valuable things that I got out of conferences is that, like, when I was doing Q&As, then I heard the questions and then I could notice patterns in the questions, for example. And then it's like, oh, we might have a problem here or there or whatever. But if I don't do those, then I don't get the question. So how do I fix that? Well, if I'm traveling anyway, then I might just invite people for a coffee and then we talk about internet things basically, and then perhaps also search things. Nowadays, definitely also AI things, fortunately. I'm very happy about that. I think the questions reflect the maturity of the community in any particular country. So, for example, in Malaysia, it would be different kinds of questions than, let's say, Singapore. Even though they are very close to each other, KL and Singapore, the level of the questions are very different. And probably because the marketers and SEOs here in Singapore have been doing that kind of work for a very long time, whilst in KL, maybe they just started their journey in SEO or marketing or whatever. Like, the largest takeaway is that, like, what's up with all the AI stuff? Like, everyone and my grandmother was asking about AI everything, and that literally is everything. Like, how can you use AI in your day-to-day life, like work life, and also outside work life? How can you do whatever else with AI, and then AI overviews, Gemini, ChatGPT, all these things, they are all coming up and people asking questions about them. I really wish we could put out more documentation about how these AI interfaces work in more simple terms, because especially the newer things that come out, like for example, a certain company put out something about reasoning, and I wanted to understand like how it works, and there was very little low-level information about that. Like there was some high-level, oh, this is kind of like magic and we like magic and whatever, but that's not very useful, right? Yeah, they are really cool.
Do you think that that's something that like we should be doing from a search perspective, or is that like the AI team's job to sort of educate about how AI works or how LLMs work, if we're being specific?
I think I'm air quoting. It's probably the AI team. We have the AI principles, or our Google's AI principles, or something like that. That site also has some white papers about how LLMs work and the common problems with LLMs. And I've been using those white papers in my presentations about AI. I feel they are particularly helpful in explaining all these AI shenanigans that we have, or the internet has nowadays, in a very clear way.
So do you think AI will replace SEO? Is SEO on a dying path?
I mean, SEO has been dying since 2001, so I'm not scared for it. Like no. I'm pretty sure that in 2025, the first article that comes out is going to be about how SEO is dying again. But
and then counterpoint how SEO is still relevant in 2025.
Yeah, considering it's been doing that for the past 25 years or something, it's like.
So you've been doing like a Gen AI talk at Search Central Live last year and this year. Have you seen questions change, or how do you see 2023 compared to 2024 in terms of people's perception or the type of question that they're asking?
They are pretty much the same, and that's because we try to vary the audience. We prefer not to re-invite people who attended one of our conferences in a certain location, because one thing is that our talks don't change that much. Like, for example, there's one way to tell how search works, right? Like if you have to, Johnny's making faces.
He's going to come up with the second way, using pasta as a vehicle for information delivery.
Explain yourself, Moo.
Oh.
Okay. But the questions are generally about how you can use AI, and will you be penalized in some way if you are using AI. And in more mature markets, it's more about like understanding hallucinations. Like one particular thing that come up in one of the meetups was how AI hallucinations work. And basically that's the reverse question, because usually it's like how AI works, and then explain how it fails. Like it's a very good question. It's like a thought-provoking question.
Do you talk about Raj at all?
What?
Reg?
He means rag.
Generation.
I feel like that still does not help me understand.
Retrieval augmented generation. That's Raj.
Rag.
Raj.
Rage.
Is it J for gay? Oh, we are not going there. Never mind.
Jif is the peanut butter.
Yes, but also no, I think. Like the people are trying to ask that question, but it comes out very awkward, and then I would not know how to answer. I think it's a relatively complex topic, and for the longest time we haven't had good ways to explain it or showcase what it can do and how it can do it. Probably nowadays it's much better, and you can just show that, like, here you upload these 5 documents, and then based on those 5 documents you get something out of the bag.
Okay. So this question is about how the thing knows its information and where it goes and gets the information?
I found it useful when talking about things like AI in search results or combined with search results, where SEOs, I feel initially when they think about this topic, think, oh, this AI is this big magic box and nobody knows what is happening in there. And when you talk about kind of the retrieval augmented part, that's basically what SEOs work on, like making content that's crawlable and indexable for search. And that kind of flows into all of these AI overviews. So I kind of found that angle as being something to show, especially to SEOs who are kind of afraid of AI and all of these things, that actually like these AI powered search results are often like a mix of the existing things that you're already doing. And it's not that it suddenly replaces crawling and indexing.
Yeah.
On that note, I noticed we updated our crawling and indexing docs in some places this year. Is something fundamentally changing there, or are we just documenting more edge cases? What's up with that?
Whether it's fundamentally changing, well, that's easy. No, we've been publishing blog posts since 2006. Or 2005, I think. 2005. We have lots of good information in those blog posts still that haven't been converted to docs. So that's one thing. The other thing is that even in our existing docs, every now and then we find holes in the documentation. Like, for example, we never directly documented what kind of encodings we accept. Like that information floats on the internet, but it was never in an official Google documentation. So yeah, we are trying to like plug those holes. Also trying to move towards like a more transparent crawling in general, like where we can document stuff that we do with the things that we do with, like the different crawlers and fetchers and whatnots. Why not do it? Because essentially it is public information, because we kind of have to crawl with those things publicly. So might as well just document it.
I think that's the thing that I was wondering for some of the changes that you had sent over to me. Is this a new thing or not with the encodings? And I was curious, why now? If this is something that we had talked about 10 years ago, why is it all of a sudden like, hello, we found the hole, we would like to fill it with some documentation?
I mean, that particular thing, that was because of some internal work that we've been doing. We were evaluating other encodings that we might want, or we might have wanted to use in our HTTP clients. And when I was basically checking our documentation about what we already have, for example, I was looking up the particular response header for encodings, the accept encoding, and then colon, and then the 3 encodings that we support. I couldn't find it. And then I found it buried in some blog post from 1972. And I tested it again, looked up in our configuration, like what we have, and then like, why not document it? Like, I can't possibly be the only person who's looking for this. Well, maybe I am, but...
So practically speaking, like an external person, why would they want to look for this piece of information?
I guess they don't need to change anything. It's more about like confirming that what you're doing is working, which probably most people will notice already. Like it's working or it's not working for search. Mm-hmm. But it's more like a confirmation that, oh, I'm doing this and Google says it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, technically an edge case would be that they switch off all encodings, and then they switch on this brand new Lizzi compression on their web server, and then everything is failing. Basically, we just get gibberish from the server because we don't support that encoding. And then you could look up like, what encodings does Googlebot support or Google's crawler support?
But then we get those like crazy questions that are like, oh, it's not listed. Does that mean it's not supported, or your docs are just out of date? And then we have to say, we don't support Lizzi.
Is that a people problem or an us problem? Like, seriously.
Okay, let's move to something less controversial.
JavaScript.
JavaScript.
Yes.
Great.
So, excellent segue.
So I heard at some of the events that I was that developers really love JavaScript and everyone wants to convert their site to JavaScript frameworks. Is this a thing, or is it just the people who want confirmation?
I think that is something that has been happening in the past and will continue to happen. And some of it sparked around 2012, 2010-ish, where the iPhone was introduced and apps came to the market and people wanted to make their websites compete with apps. That was the goal. And then people were told, oh, the web can't do what apps can do. And so a lot of functionality needed to be added to the web to go along with what apps can do, like push notifications, working offline, these kind of things. And these things have historically been done with JavaScript and will continue to be done with JavaScript. But I think we have seen that calm down a little bit as the web platform became more capable and people have discovered, oh, this can be an application platform. Now we're in this weird state where websites can be just that, websites, basically pages and information that is presented on multiple pages and linked. But it can also be an application, like you can do podcast recording in the browser like we do right now. That is a web application. We don't have to install anything. It just works in our browser. Or a CAD application where you can design parts for a new machine, or you can edit photos or cut videos. These kind of things can be done on the web as well. And then the interesting thing is that's a spectrum. And these are kind of like the two ends of a spectrum. You have pages and then you have these applications and then you have things in between. Like you can do apartment viewings in the browser. Is that a website? Yes, in the sense it is a website because it presents information like the square footage, which floor is this on, what's the address, how many rooms, how many bedrooms, blah, blah, blah. But it's also an application because you can use a 3D view to walk through the apartment for something. What is this? How do I represent this? And it's using a JavaScript application base to kind of present this information. But maybe then it also uses the same JavaScript that does the 3D rendering to also present the rest of the information on the page. And I think we are seeing more and more of this, where we are somewhere in between an application and a website. And yeah, I think that might be why more people are asking us about JavaScript, because they're in this weird in-between place.
Okay.
I guess when you get this question, John, are they having a problem? Or are they wondering, like, before they have the problem, like, hey, I want to implement this thing, like, will it be okay for search? Or I implemented this thing, it's not working. Hello, please fix it.
Both. I see kind of people who have problems and kind of pointing them at our existing documentation, especially all of the content that Martin has created over the years. That's been really helpful. And sometimes I have people who come to me and like, my developer said they only would like JavaScript. And it's like, is it okay? And then it's like you also have to point them at the existing documentation and say like, hey, for the most part, yes, but you still have to watch out. It's not like a simple just replace everything with JavaScript kind of thing. And usually that's pretty helpful. But it kind of feels like that thing that Martin mentioned. It's where there are lots of people that like these JavaScript frameworks and they use them for things where JavaScript really makes sense. And then they're like, why don't I just use it for everything?
Yeah.
And sometimes that makes sense. Sometimes it's like, I have a hammer, I will use it for everything, which doesn't actually work well if you want to make a toast, for example.
You can make a very thin toast.
I think you're really hammering this point home, John.
Ah.
You nailed it.
Nailed it.
So in last year's episode, we talked a little, or you guys talked, not me, I wasn't there, but you were talking about using LLMs and playing around with them. How has your view on them changed since last year? So to remind you, Gary said that he was using it to cause problems, and John said that he sometimes uses it to structure documents, and Martin, I think, asked the question.
So I think, I don't know, it's like maybe it's more of a kind of an element of the time right now, but one of the things I noticed is some of these LLMs are really good at writing code. So maybe we can get rid of all of our developers. No, just kidding.
Nope.
Sorry. No.
Oh boy.
Nope.
Oh boy.
But I, for example, I found this really cool LLM that does code really well, and I had it write Python code that trained an LLM model to solve the Fizz buzz problem. I don't know. Have you heard of this, Gary? You know Fizz buzz? Martin?
Yes.
Fizz buzz?
I heard that before, and I've
Okay.
done my fair share of fizz buzzes.
Okay, for those who do not know what a fizz buzz is.
It's basically a very basic program that counts through the numbers, and every number that's divisible by 3, it says fizz instead of the number. Every number that's divisible by 5, it says buzz, and this is what it does. So I asked an LLM to write Python code to train a transformer model to do this.
Why?
And it worked. It worked. Why? Like it had a very, very good accuracy. The why question the LLM asked me repeatedly is like, are you ready to do something serious? But I just found kind of the process of like the LLM spitting out the code and saying, here's the code. And then you try to run it and it's like, oh no, it throws this error, and you just give the LLM the error and it's like, oh, my bad. And it's like, tries to fix it. You do that a few times, and then in the end, it actually works. So I had this really long code that took, I don't know, like a half an hour to run to train a transformer model to do FizzBuzz.
So, Martin, like if you sit down and you have your favorite tea next to you, how much time would it take to write a Python thingy that does FizzBuzz?
Well, if I like take care of my tea first and like zip it and stare a little bit into the distance because I have a really nice panoramic view, 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah, that's. I wanted to say 7, but sure.
Oh, okay. If it makes you happier, 7. I think I can stretch the tea out a little bit more.
I thought it was fantastic, and
Sure.
I loved having a LLM write code to make another LLM. It's like,
This is great.
So you're still using it for fun and chaos?
well, I just noticed that it's like when I need to create some small scripts, it's sometimes helpful to get that. I mean, oftentimes in practice, it probably takes just as much time to make this code. Like if you make it less complex than if you did it yourself, and sometimes it invents things. So it's like pros and cons. But
I mean, I think this year I went through all the phases of a kind of relationship with AI situation. So at first I was skeptical, then I got mildly excited for it, then I got really excited as I tried like different things. For instance, I was skeptical at first when I saw how clunky it feels clunky to me to have to chat with the thing. I don't want to chat with the thing. I just wanted to like click a button and then be done with it. And then I got excited as I realized how much I can actually do with AI enhancements to photos and how much quicker I can do certain things. And I tried I think on TikTok, if I remember correctly, I tried the AI cutting thing that kind of cuts a video for you. It was surprisingly reasonable. It wasn't exactly my editing choices, but you know, if you have like 5 minutes and you want to produce something for social media real quick, it's probably better than just not doing it because you don't have more than 5 minutes. Cool. So I got really excited, and then at some point I used it a bunch to draft like articles and blog posts and slide decks and these kind of things. But I realized then, and that's when it peaked kind of for me in around the summer. And I realized that actually in the end, I pretty much threw away everything that it created for me and just redid it. So I'm like, I mean, it gets me started, but maybe that's like a discipline issue and I could just like do it without AI really, instead of just like sitting there and being like, I don't have the perfect storyline, so I'm not going to start the slide deck. Just start with something and then enhance. Because I don't really save time using AI there. And recently I got really excited because someone was like, there's this like AI website builder, and I sometimes I'm not really a good web designer, but I can tell if I like a website or not from its design, or from its design perspective. And I usually overcome this whenever I make a website by just using themes or like designs that someone with an eye for design put together. And it takes me a bunch of time because I have to browse these. So an AI website maker sounded interesting, and I clicked on it, and it took ages to come out with the first design, and it was utter crap. And then I wanted to iterate, and it took like, honestly, not even lying, it took like 60 seconds to generate a second version, and it was different, but it was even the same amount of crap. Like, it didn't get better, it just switched the fonts and the colors. Like lavender and dark slate blue for purple and cream or something like that. And you're like, this is still making me sick. So why did you take a minute to do that? Like, I could have done that in 10 seconds in a web editor of my choice. So it didn't help at all.
Morty,
What?
have you heard of Dreamweaver?
Yeah, but Dreamweaver was faster. It was crap, but it was faster.
Your experience reminded me of Dreamweaver.
Yeah, me too. And I'm like, but to be honest, like Dreamweaver in worse. I didn't know that was possible, but yeah. So I'm at this point, I'm like, there are use cases of AI where I get excited for it, but this is not it. It's not as universal as you would think. I saw a talk recently in London as SMX London, where someone who does not have Python skills actually built an AI thing with Python using ChatGPT, and that was really impressive. And they walked us through the process kind of in real time, and it took half an hour, but that's still impressive. They had like a keyword categorization thing built in like half an hour without actually knowing coding. Great. I think that's great.
I finally had a positive experience with an LLM. Sounds terrible. But all these like LLM use cases, they're all like content generation or like help me do a thing. And what I really like about NotebookLM is that it seems to be more focused on help me understand the thing. And more of a, maybe because we're in the end of the year, like reflection mode. But I can then ask it more questions about the documentation and see how it can like compare and contrast, or find themes maybe from like all the podcast episodes that we recorded this year, or maybe like inconsistencies. If we were saying something a certain way, can you find like all the times that we talked about sitemaps and then compare?
Yeah, I'm also using NotebookLM quite extensively for like some personal research that I'm doing, like just hobby things. And it's mind blowing. I'm sure there are other similar apps or whatever it is out there, but like I heard about this from AJ Cohn, who's a longtime SEO, and he brought it up, and back then it was not available in the outside the US, and I was relatively upset about it because he was he was singing odes about it, and finally when we got it, then I tried it with some publications from journals and stuff like that, like Elsevier and whatever. It's mind-blowing, like finding connections. Like you upload like 5 publications, like research papers or something, and then it finds connections between the thing that you are asking about in those 5 PDFs. And then you also have the citations and whatever. It's freaking awesome.
Do you use the audio overview feature?
No. Why?
I was just curious because this is an audio format, so it seems relevant.
No, I like silence.
Okay. One quick last thing. What is your favorite thing on the internet that you discovered this year?
This year? Nothing. Can it be like
what?
This century? This decade?
Okay. This decade.
No, this millennium.
That's...
Oh, wait, that's also this decade. Oh, no, this is this century.
Okay, Martin, your turn.
Oh, boy. I rediscovered like old German memes, and I'm just loving it. And also, I rediscovered the old Vine short videos. Oh, they're so good.
That's not this year.
Well, no, but I rediscovered them this year. So this year on the internet, I discovered or I liked these things.
Then this year I rediscovered the $1 million homepage.
I think my favorite moment was the Temu croissant video.
What?
That I will be sending to you after this podcast recording.
Please do.
So not a serious moment, but discovering it was this person who uploaded their first TikTok video, and it was them wondering why they found ants crawling out from under a croissant lamp that they bought on Temu. And it was
Did you say
croissant?
Wait.
A croissant. Croissant.
And then I will have a croissant.
A croissant dipped in resin, and then shipped to your house. You can see where this is going. And it was tested in the video and confirmed to be edible.
What?
No way!
Okay.
On that note.
Mine was I ran across an Australian cheesemaker on YouTube who does videos about making cheese, and he opens every video with "Good day, curd nerds."
Curd nerds, I like it. Oh, that's good.
Cool. All right.
That's amazing.
Well, that's it for this episode, and maybe you'll hear more from us. If people want to find you on the internet and ask you more questions, where can they reach you?
LinkedIn.
Yep.
We will put the link
$1 million homepage.
Did you buy the $1 million homepage?
No, but I'm considering buying a Pixel.
All right.
Pixel 9?
Oh my gosh.
Pixel 9 XL?
9.
Okay, so we will see you next year.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks, y'all, for listening. Thank you for joining, and goodbye.
Wiedersehen.
Tschüss.
Bye-bye.
We've been having fun with these podcast episodes. I hope you, the listener, have found them both entertaining and insightful too. Feel free to drop us a note on LinkedIn or chat with us at one of the next events that we go to if you have any thoughts. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, and goodbye.